The rich countries give $400 billion subsidies. You've just had a series of bailouts for banks and the automotive industry. But since chemical industrial agriculture started, there has been an every year bailout of what I would call the war industry, the industrial agriculture industry. Every year they've been bailed out on the world scale by $400 billion. Without it, it won't work. Because remember I said, it needs 10 times more finance, 10 times more energy, 10 times more inputs than you get out of it. You can only sustain a negative system like that by bringing down the price. And that price is brought down through subsidies. And the subsidy structure then ends up being used to force other countries like mine to import. That's why I've called free trade is not free trade. WTO is not about free trade. It's about forced trade. It's about forcing you to buy what you don't need. And all this is done through the measure of opening up borders and the subsidy question. Anyway, the Green Revolution gets brought to Punjab. In the early stages, it doesn't do too badly because there are huge subsidies. The fertilizers come for as good as free, the pesticide comes for free, the seeds are given. But over time, the fertilizer subsidies get withdrawn and the addiction increases because these are ecological narcotics. The more urea you apply, the more you must apply. The more pesticides you spray, the more you must spray. And it's wonderful for the industry that sells these. I would say that the agrochemical industry is to the planet what drug traffickers are in society. Because they sell toxic, lethal drugs that are killing the land and killing people and do it through an addiction. And the addiction comes with, the first dose is always for free. It comes with a subsidy. Including seeds. Non-renewable seeds are never introduced in a market phenomena. The first bit is brilliant. But in the you give up your renewable seeds, you got non-renewable seeds, next year you have to buy. Brilliant mechanisms. And very quickly, before we knew it, at the global level, food that used to be women's expertise has now become controlled by a war industry. A war industry controls our food system. And that war industry then has created all this manufacturing of, remember the chemical sort of delivery through chemicals, DDT is good for you. Pesticides, I don't know how many of you have seen pesticide ads, as if everything in the world is going to devour you. Biodiversity is your enemy. And you've got to kill every bug, you've got to kill every insect, and then you'll be safe. Of course, you're not, because the pesticides themselves are the danger. The combination of this industrialization of farming and long-distance transport, where societies that have been able to grow their food are now being forced to import it from long distance, has translated into a system where today we are generating 40% of the climate problem from industrial agriculture and corporate farming, including the fact that as soya bean becomes the base, of cattle feed, of oil, of everything, more and more land is going under soya. All of Argentina is today under Roundup resistant soya. They spray from the air. No one can farm anything else because, as I mentioned, Roundup kills everything green. So if you want to be a vegetable gardener or an organic gardener, you can't do it anymore. It's one toxic landscape. The Amazon is being cut down for soya. I've traveled in the Amazon. The Amazon is the lungs and livers of the planet. It regulates the climate in such a serious way. And we are chopping it down to expand soya cultivation. We have reduced our food base from 8,500 crops to 4 crops that are genetically engineered and 1 or 2 other commodities, rice and wheat, which are also losing their life-giving aspect. And as more hunger is created, as more people are deprived of their access to food, hunger itself becomes the biggest market. There is, at this point, as I talk with you, a big fight going on, and it's about who will feed the malnourished. What is going to be our security? The earth. I think we have to shift radically in our understanding of sustainability, in our understanding of environmentalism. Earlier, environmentalism was something out there, far away, a polar bear. Today's environmentalism will have to be rebuilding the natural capital that allows us to meet our needs on the one hand and generates livelihoods, jobs, and options for economic recovery on the other hand. It's the same actions we need for economic recovery as we do for solving the climate problem, as we do for addressing the food crisis. These are all interrelated crises, and small steps in building a local ecological food system are big steps in addressing these mega crises that we face. The wonderful thing this is doing is making food respectable again. Food was sort of an afterthought, and every time I visit this country, I kind of get into a tizzy where everyone's walking with a coffee and a burger in their hand, and also trying to have a phone conversation, I think the dignity that food deserves is going to be increasingly important. But the dignity that food producers deserve is going to be very important. And increasingly, the knowledge we thought we could forget, the knowledge that women have of how to save seeds, how to make a local food, how to preserve something without chemicals, that's only exclusively women's knowledge, because only women knew how to do preserving before the chemical age. So it's a time to celebrate the new task of recovery, a new task of recovery in which we become co-creators with nature and co-producers as a community. This will not begin with governments will always have a time lag of about 20 years. That's my life's experience. 20 years from now, they'll wake up to it, but we can't afford to wait 20 years, so we begin the work now.